Are you ready? The Cornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Cornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Cornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth. Welcome, everyone, to the Cornelia Stephanie Show. I have got an exciting show for you planned today. We are here to talk about nailing your message and getting booked with my very special guest, Jackie Kotei. Stop being the best kept secret. Get featured on national television outlets like ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, or even Oprah's own. Jackie Kotei is a publicity and media strategist who helps soul-centered entrepreneurs get covered by major media and featured globally to inspire the world. After spending more than 10 years working in the media as a TV reporter, producer, and spokeswoman, she started her own company so that she could have the flexibility to be a great wife, a great mother for her two children. Her goal is to help change the narrative in the media so that more transformational stories can get featured. Welcome to the show, Jackie Kotei.
Hey, I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Cornelia, for having me.
It's such an honor to work with you because I'm also one of your clients. And so it's fantastic to be part of this collaborative co-creation together. And I am seeing behind the scenes how well you and your team, feature people and get their messages out into the world. And because you're also, like you said, changing the narrative. You're changing the narrative of how media is done. And so give us a little story about your background and how you got started, with your mission, with your vision, with your company.
Yeah, so it's been about 15 years ago this year since I first decided that I wanted to be a journalist. And I still remember the day sitting at ABC's Washington Bureau, and I was working as a producer, and that was behind the scenes. And I would see all of these great people getting featured and on TV. And I knew within myself that I had a vision and a dream to be the one telling the stories and sharing about the world and going here and going there on TV assignments, and yet I was still so far away from that. So it really took me first starting to look at how I was showing up in the world, what my thoughts were projecting and things like that before I ever got my big break. And my big break came in the form of a phone call, like out of the blue one day. My girlfriend calls me and she's like, "Jackie, I talked to this news director and he wants to meet you." And really within 30 days, I went from working behind the scenes at ABC's Washington Bureau to being an on-air TV reporter. And I thought my dreams had come true. I was excited. I'm like, man, this manifestation stuff really works. And believe it or not, I spent 2 years doing that. But what I really quickly started to see was that there was a lot of doom and gloom about that. There was a lot of stories that really just made me not feel well because it was a lot of pain and drama and just things that were not great about the world. And so around that time, I decided to start my own company. My company failed. I didn't know anything about running a business. I didn't know how to package myself. I didn't know how to price myself. I really just wanted to do good. And I would do a lot of things for free or bartering and all of that. And so I went back to work. I went back to work working for fire and rescue. And while I was there, I basically ran an entire media relations division and started around that time, especially as I started to have kids again, I started to think, wow, I really want the flexibility. And so it was around that time that I created my company, More Good Media. And that's what I do now is I basically left the job this time around smarter and started my own media relations company where we help entrepreneurs and thought leaders get featured in the media. We show them how to navigate the media landscape and really how to use publicity to grow their businesses. And so that's the short version of the story. And it's just been such a big joy to see people like, you and others who just have incredible messages really open up to how you're being seen in the world and the ways that you're sharing your message, in ways that really make a difference for people. And that's really our vision, is that especially through television, that we can get more positive stories featured so that people can turn on the news one day and see the good of humanity and not just the doom and gloom.
Right. We do need more of the good news media, the good news
Mhm.
media, right? So that I'm so glad that you are changing the narrative and helping entrepreneurs get their messages out to be seen on television. I just spoke with someone last week that told me that they were on Good Morning America. They saw there was a sound healer and they had the crystal bowls and sound healing on Good Morning America. And I said, Hallelujah, yay, this
Yes.
is a wonderful, wonderful way. Good Morning America. This is great that this is happening. So I'm so glad that you ended up listening to yourself and then starting your own company again after you left Fire and Rescue. Do you believe that being at Fire and Rescue and running that media division, that was the missing piece that you needed in order to run that business and run that piece in order to get you really started and get you successful in your own business launch?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't believe that there are any accidents. And I was just sharing about this on my Facebook Live today. There have been so many dreams that I've had that have taken non-traditional paths. And me being able to start my own company, that was always a dream of mine. I'd grown up seeing my grandfather as an entrepreneur. And so I saw that very early on. But I think that if I hadn't have went back and worked for Fire and Rescue, there were so many things about the strategy and about the process that I was missing that I really got to best practice there. There were also other forms of communication and media that we really built out. And so often when people hire me, it's not just a traditional PR firm or publicist that's going to go and get you featured. I really focus a lot on the business strategy. I focus a lot on the marketing strategy because I believe that you can't do great PR and great publicity without that process and that structure. And so that came from my time at Fire and Rescue. I mean, we won awards there because of our work in social media and our work in crisis communications. And that only came from me building it from the ground up. When I first started there, I was the only person. It was a new position, a new division. And when I left, we had about 10 people collectively that were working in that division. And I think often entrepreneurs who think about PR and publicity, they think, oh, let me go hire a publicist and that's it. Where you really want to be thinking about how are you doing publicity holistically in your company. And so for me, a lot of that came from what I learned in that position. And a lot of it, at the time I didn't love it, Cornelia. There were times that I was like, why am I still working here? I remember when I first went to go ask for a raise, it was like my first year there. And I thought, oh man, like surely they're going to give me a raise. I've worked hard, I put my time in. And they were like, we don't do raises in government. Like we just do step increases. And your step increase is like everybody else who has the same credential, and I just was so heartbroken because I felt like I had worked hard and done everything I needed to do and everything. And it wasn't an increase. And I think I say all that to say that there were a lot of moments there that were challenging, that were like cry on the floor moments where I was heartbroken. But it also really helped build my character. It made me resilient and it really birthed what I have now, which is a company that's just really dedicated to what the work that we do.
Yeah, and I just want to celebrate one of our people this morning was just featured this morning. I what the news station is, but it was Nina Sky, who I also had on the Living Heaven on Earth radio show, and she got featured, and they did a two-part segment for her. It was a 3-minute segment, and then they also did a Facebook Live segment. and that is, featuring her and her work, what she's doing,
Mhm.
and she came through your program. So tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about how people can find out about you, Jackie, where they can get your information, your website information, and how they can find out more.
Yeah, so we often want to work with people who know that they're soul driven and that they have a big vision. And it's interesting, Cornelia, because often we work with people that don't fit the norm, or they're pioneers, or they're industry disruptors, or they're doing something that people don't know about. And so if they go to moregoodmedia.com, they can pull up our information, and it has one of our most popular free gifts, which helps you learn how to get featured on TV.
Hmm. And so, is that the only place, moregoodmedia.com?
That's
That's
the
where.
best place to go, because that's really the gateway to a lot of the other things that we offer. We do have a free gift, I think, that we're, giving away for those viewers that are on listening to the show, and those who are listening to the audio. And that's our quick start template to getting on national TV, and that's right there on that page.
Yeah. uh, because the quick start template is going to really help people discover if this is for them, right? If they can really bring if they this is the sole entrepreneur message for them, this can help them do that. Is that right? The quick start guide.
Yes, the Quick Start template takes them through one of our most popular pitches, which is a plug and play, meaning that you could copy it, put in your stuff, and hit send. And it's a start to help you understand who are the producers, what to say, what are they interested in. Many of the questions that we used to get from people, we put it in this Quick Start so that you can go through for free and see the process and even use the template there. And we've had people had success just from using that template.
And they can use that in other areas of their life as well, because I discovered that working with you all, where else this can fit, because
Yeah.
really it's about building relationships, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so often people think that the media, I typically say that people either think they're like God or they think they're evil, like Satan or something. And I'm like, they're neither. They're people just like you and I. And if you can think about the fact that that producer on the other end of the email or phone line, or that reporter or that TV anchor, they've got family, they've got things that keep them up at night, they've got things that bring them joy, they've got things that they love to do. And if you can connect with them there and start with the connection, so much will open up for you in terms of having great relationships in the media.
Yeah, and so many of us who are now beginning that relationship building, we are positioning ourselves so that we can have an ongoing media presence, and that we can be the go to source for when stories develop out in the media, that you can come and you can bring your expertise to whatever the situation is, right? And that's really where we can influence and impact humanity on a larger scale that we normally wouldn't be able to do so. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. We're going to take a break on the Cornelia Stephanie Show. We'll be right back with Jackie Kotei.
My name's Bob Skeel. I'm 91 years old, and I want to take a few minutes now to share with you the important role, actually the critical role, Cornelia has played in my life. I say critical because I'm not sure I'd be alive at all to the many possibilities that make up our human experience at my age, if not for her. I could have easily become another dead man walking, only half conscious, stumbling through my remaining years, if it hadn't been for Cornelia. 6 years ago, I lost my wife to Alzheimer's. We'd been married for 61 years. I never thought I'd be a widower, but there I was, suddenly lost and alone, but with the good sense to set a working goal for myself. I was going to spend the rest of my life committed to unconditional love, whatever that meant and wherever that took me. A year or so later, Cornelia came along, helping me over several years to focus that unconditional love where it had never been focused before, on me. My whole life, my entire being had been focused on love of neighbor, and I had derived great satisfaction from that. But in the process, I had ignored the second part. I love your neighbor as yourself. Now it was time to direct that love inward. I didn't see that right away, but Kornelia did, and she drew me there. She drew me actually to God. Through many conversations over coffee and after numerous, sometimes tearful, agonizing discussions, Kornelia was able to lead me, kicking and screaming, to within where I needed to be. It was there finally that I was able to re-identify myself. It was in bringing unconditional love to myself that I now saw myself in a new light, a fully conscious, worthy human being, capable of healing, loving, and creating in my own right all these gifts of the evolutionary process. I'm a new man now, younger as I get older. I don't move as fast as I once did, of course, but my smile is quicker and I engage the heart and mind of others more readily. I would likely not be at such a wonderful stage in my life if not for Kornelia. I owe my new life to her, a wonderful friend and a constant source of inspiration. Thank you, Kornelia.
Welcome back to the Cornelia Stephanie Show. I'm speaking with Jackie Kotei, and we're talking about becoming nationally known with your message. Jackie, tell us about why it's so important to be seen and heard in the media today.
Yeah, so I think that most people that are listening to this or watching this, you are the light. You are the people that are out there. If you follow Cornelia, I know her tribe, I know her community. You're people that want to see better. You want to see good in the world. But the average American is not like that. You know, the average American is dealing with everyday problems, everyday challenges. They're not as enlightened as you might be. And so I think it's imperative for change makers, people that are doing incredible things in the world, to go back and make sure that they are leading the way for others to follow. And so when I look at like, how do we change things? How do we create more hope? How do we make the world a better place? It takes people going into major media and being the light. And so the average American is looking at my mom, for example. She comes to our house sometimes now and babysits my kids, and she's a great woman. She's amazing, but she will turn on the 5 o'clock news, and it's like I'll come downstairs and I'm like, Mom, please turn that off, because it's this crime, that crime, this shooting, this teenager that got arrested, and all of that. And so we want to be able to turn on the news and see possibility. Doesn't mean that it's all going to be great stories. It might be how-to stories. It might be stories of someone who's overcome adversity and created a better result. I often think about the Olympics, how when the Olympics comes on once every 4 years, or once, depending on if it's the winter or summer, it's like everyone across the globe stops and watches it. And all you see is the best of humanity playing out. Even if someone was in a coma 2 years ago, it's like now you see them competing and being at the top of their performance. And so I really think that entrepreneurs have a responsibility, and thought leaders have a responsibility to go and be seen in major media sources so that others really can see what's possible and can grow, as we can really grow as a human race.
Yeah, and that's exactly the perfect place to be seen and to be heard on television, and spread the good news and spread the ways that we make the world a better place. Jackie, why don't you tell us about some of your people that are in your group right now, people that you're working with, that you're featuring, or that you have featured? Like, give us an example of who some of those people are. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'll say is that so that I gave you one reason why people need to be in the media. I could give you tons. I
yeah,
think before I even go through a specific example, it's important that everyone that's listening knows that TV producers are looking for you. And that's another big mindset shift that I think it's important to touch on, because often I think people feel like, well, who, me? Why me? or like it's this huge hard thing to have happen. And what I would say is that every TV show that comes on is going to be on again in the future, with or without you. Like a magazine that goes out every month has to fill its pages. That TV segment has, or that TV show has 30 minutes multiple times a day that they've got to fill. So they're looking for stories. I remember often when I was working as a TV reporter, I had 2 stories that were due every day. And that was regardless of whether it was a holiday, whether or not it was a snowmageddon out. I remember we had our first snowmageddon and my mom was like, "You still have to go to work?" Like, yes, I do. I have pictures of me like streets clear in the snow looking for a story. And so those stories are happening every day. And it just makes sense that yours would be the one that would be featured, especially because they're already looking. So we've had clients, like one of my favorite clients, Krista O'Leary. She is an interior designer, but she does it from an energy of your space. Like, what's the energy? What's the color? How does it align with your birthday and all this stuff? Very woo woo, what people might say is woo woo, but she's an interior designer. And we basically reached out to, we've had her featured in a lot of places. She's been on CW in San Diego. She's been on TV in New Hampshire where she's based. And then 2 years ago, we had her on the Hallmark Channel. And I think that's a big like win, especially for those that are listening, because the Hallmark Channel is a good example of a national media outlet that has positive stories already. They have about 80 million viewers, home and family. And when you look at they do a daily show Monday through Friday, and it's a news show. And they're a good example of good news. And so when you think about major media, I think often it's important to know that there are custom built audiences out there, meaning the Hallmark Channel, 80 million viewers, parents, families, all of that, they're watching. There are shows that are specifically for doctors or for health professionals, same with magazines and blogs and podcasts. And so you want to be thinking about what it is that you're doing and how to get out there. So Krista's a great example of that. We have another client, Janine, who she's been in a lot of different things, PBS, she's done a TED Talk, she's done local TV. And then just a few months ago, like a month and a half ago, she was on Sister Circle in Atlanta. And she talked about what are some of the traumas that women face when it comes to relationships and love. And so again, she shared the trauma, she shared the challenges, but she also shared what women can do to break through and to have the relationships that they want. And so this is kind of what I mean by when I say more good media, is that it's not just going on and sharing the doom. Relationships suck. These are the celebrities that broke up. These are it's what's the solutions? What's the possibilities? What are ways that people can think outside of what they know to be true to create a different result? And so, I mean, I could go on. I mean, Kornelia, because you're around. I mean, we get clients featured. I feel like they're almost every day I see one of our clients that's on a TV show, and even people that we've partnered with, we just often, we'll share info with the media. We just had someone on in Hollywood, like Good Morning La La Land, and she's like, I almost, so yeah, it's just, I think it's amazing to be able to leverage those kinds of placements as a way to truly spread your impact, to truly expand your reach, and really help more people.
Yeah, there's just so much that you said, but it's all about the mindset, right? It's shifting our mindset to, it's an opportunity for us to have a platform that's available to us, where
Mm-hmm.
we can bring our message, and where, like you said, the reporters are looking for you. I saw that this morning when I saw Nina being featured with wherever that was, in Baltimore, I think, where she lives, or Maryland. But the reporter was so happy that Nina was there, and she commented several times on her energy, and how good her energy felt, and how nice it was that she was around, because reporters are looking for you. They're looking to report good news, because they have to balance it out with some of the bad news that's out there, right? They have to be able to balance it out. So this is a way that we can tip the scales. And I know that when more and more people come out of hiding and come out and share their message and have a place to go, that it's really valuable to be seen and to be heard, and that your message is somebody's answered prayer.
Yeah, yeah, I say that often because I think about the people that have helped shape my life and the people that have helped me to grow and be who I am. Often those were answered prayers. Like I remember when I wanted to start my business the second time around, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do it. I didn't do it well the first time around. And I remember praying, and sure enough, I got an email in my inbox, and it was somebody who was sharing a best practice or a training, and that shifted things for me. And so I think so often we had another client who went on last year for Suicide Prevention Month, and it was a mom. This mom, I think sometimes people who are listening are like, well, first I need to get my website done, and then I got to do my branding, and then I got to do all that. You don't. You've just got to have a vision to serve more people to get featured. And this was a good example with Carrie, was that she didn't have a website. She didn't have a lot of fancy branding. She just said, I really want to make an impact. I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. And we got her featured on National Suicide Prevention Month just around her story of feeling what it's like to want to end her life, and also pulling herself out of that and designing her dream life. And that's now what she goes and helps other moms to do, is help them create their dream life, like what excites them and things like that. And so I say that just because I think all too often people think that you've got to have it all together to get featured on TV. And I would say that if you've got the right intention, and if you know that you want to serve at that level, that's often enough. The other thing I'll say is that I like television more than other mediums. Not to say other mediums don't have their place. I think it's important that you podcast and you do radio interviews and you do magazine, but I like television because I think it gives you more versatility with what you can do with the feature, as well as with I think just it translates more to people that you're an expert, even more so sometimes than other platforms. So I think it's, especially if there are people that have done a bunch of radio already, or done a lot of newspapers, or done a lot of magazines, I would say television is a good next step for you, because there are more things you got to think about. Even for our interview today, I was like asking my team, was like, is this video? Okay, that means I need to look cute, like I can't just, and I asked again before I was like, is this video? Because, it's just other things. You've got to be able to communicate at your peak when you're on video versus just radio, magazines, and some of the other forms.
Exactly, because if you're just doing a podcast where you're not being seen, that's a whole different ball game, because then you can just kind of walk around and nobody sees you. But doing these podcasts where we're really live all the time, and that was part of my whole purpose for creating this podcast, is being seen and being heard, because I know how important it is.
I
And then,
love
of course,
that.
bumping into you at Dream Big, which was a divine guidance as well. And so now I too am positioning myself to spread my message and go out there and be seen and heard on a larger scale. So I'm so excited for what's coming there.
Yeah.
So Jackie, let's tell everybody again before we go to break how to get the free gift that you're offering and how they can learn more about you.
So I would say that anybody who knows that they want to take their light to the media, or knows that they've done other forms, or they're new, the best way to get started is with our QuickStart template to getting on national media. And whether you want to get on national media a year from now, 2 years from now, you want to at least start with understanding the process and learning how to navigate and learning what's possible for you. And so if you go to our website, moregoodmedia.com, you will see the template right there. You can just enter your name and email, click, I want access, and that'll really get you the template, but also connect it with us so that we can really support you along the process.
Perfect. We're going to be right back on the Kornelia Stephanie Show. We'll see you in a few.
Hello, my name is Charlene Hess, and I want to share with you my wonderful experience of choosing to use Cornelia Stephanie as my life coach. My life is so different now from where it was when I began working with her in 2011. At that time, I was in a dysfunctional marriage. I had my own business, I was raising 2 children, and completely dead inside. After working with Cornelia, I began to gain confidence. I began to learn and understand how to use my emotions in my life. I learned how to process the emotions that were stored in my body, the ones that I thought that I had already worked through in my 12 years of counseling prior to working with her. The process that she had taken me through of using my emotions to heal my life, to use my anger to find peace, was absolutely incredible. I have been working with her one-on-one for many years now, and even though I am in a place now where I am thriving in my life, I still refer to Cornelia as my coach, and I still work with her on an ongoing basis where we're always checking in and keeping me accountable in my growth. After working with her for many years, I decided to go through her wholeness certification coaching program, and it has absolutely been an amazing process. I now am a certified empowerment coach, and I got certified through her program, and I am taking clients and helping them to find the empowerment in their lives. One of the things that I love about Cornelia is that she taught me that I am the authority in my own life. And that was a really difficult experience to go through because it was really fighting against all of the dogma and programming that was so ingrained in my brain that all of the authority is outside of me. But as I began to understand and believe and adopt and know the truth that I am the authority in my life, is when everything in my life started to shift and change. I became responsible for my decisions. I became responsible for creating a life that I love. And now I'm here in this amazing, beautiful place, living a life of so much happiness and joy. And no matter what life throws at me, I have the tools to be able to approach everything from a place of empowerment. And now I have the ability to help other people do the same. So working with Cornelia has absolutely been the best decision that I've ever made in my life. It has taken me from a life of absolute misery and given me the tools to be able to have a life of absolute, complete joy. So I cannot recommend working with her enough. I hope that you decide to choose to have her as your coach. Go through her empowerment coaching program, go through her wholeness certification, and I guarantee you won't regret it.
Super awesome. We're back on the Cornelia Stephanie Show talking with Jackie Kotei today, and we're talking about being seen, being heard, and making an impact on a global scale. Jackie, tell us about more about how we can create an impact in media relationships, building the media relationships, and how to get started.
Yeah, so I would say that, for everyone who's watching, there's probably about 5 to 10 media relationships that you need to be building. And I look at relationships with the media as one of the greatest assets that you can have in your business. Because really, when you think about the trajectory of your business, whether you're just getting started or you've been in business for a long time, there are multiple times along the course of your business that you want to get it out there in front of the masses or in front of a bigger audience. And so you don't want to just have like a one-off interaction with the media where it's like, hey, I got what I needed, you got what I need, I'll see you never. You want to make it so that when you have those big things happen in your company, whether you're writing a book or you're doing a launch of something, or you just won an award, or you just gave, we had a client that was featured last year because they partnered with a charity and raised like $60,000. And so these are all different moments in your business that you want to have those 5 to 10 relationships so that you can tell the media and really share with them the value of it. And so what I would say is that first of all, it starts with looking at the media like everyday people. We started to talk about that. They're moms. They're like you and I. They're not, even though they might be on TV every day, and even though some of them might have egos, at the core, they're people just like you and I. And so I would say that first and foremost, you almost want to think about what might be the media places that would for your company or for your business. No matter what kind of business you have, you probably want to pick 2 or 3 contacts that are local that are in your geographical area, depending on where you live in the country or in the world. You also want to think about what are some that are in your niche. So there are, we have in our database about 300,000 media contacts, and that's across location, that's across TV, radio, and all of that. And then we also have them by niche. And so even in your niche, if you just Google today, radio stations that cover fill in the blank on your topic, or magazines, or your topic magazines, that's going to start to give you ideas or help you get clearer on what might be some of the places that already cover what you do. So 2 or 3 local, 2 or 3 that are in your niche. And then I always, just for fun, I like to have people pick 2 or 3 that are wish list publications, that are places that you're like, one day I know I want to be on, and fill in the blank what that is for you. And so from there, what I would recommend is, if you get our QuickStart template, and if you, go through our process, you'll see ways to get the contacts without having to do a bunch of research. However, you're going to need to do research. So I would use a Google Doc or an Excel spreadsheet and just start to list out, okay, so I know, okay, these are the few that I want to make contact with. I would then spend a good amount of time, at least a week, just seeing what it is that they cover. So for every journalist, for every producer, most of them have certain things that they write about or certain things that they cover. And so I would start to see, what do they cover? What is it that they're interested in? Look them up on LinkedIn, look them up on Facebook, see if they have a business Facebook page, look them up on Twitter, and just start to get a sense of what it is that they cover. Because what that's going to do is, before you go in with like, please feature me, or like just asking, like going in to get, it's going to really help you get clear on what they've done and what they're concerned about and all of that. And it's going to make your connection with them a lot better than if it's just about you and about what it is that you do. So after you spend about a week, like just seeing what they cover and all of that, I would then reach out to them. And we have in the QuickStart template that I've talked about a sample way to reach out where you can fill in the blank. It could be I have a story idea email. It could also just be, I wanted to connect. And in it, you could just say, hey, I saw that you cover this and that. I love the article. I love the segment that you did on this. I just wanted to connect. I'm an expert in this field, and I saw that you cover it. So please let me know what kind of stories you're working on next and things like that. And then that's really it. You don't want to reach out and like shove a press release down their mouth, down their throat. You don't want to reach out and say, urgent, come to my event this weekend. It's dire. Like, you don't want to reach out from that energy. You really want to reach out from the place of connecting with them. And what I found is that sometimes it might take more than one email because they're busy. They do have deadlines, and I think that's important for people to know. But most times you'll find that if you say to them that you're an expert in this, or that they're more than likely going to keep you on their short list, especially if you communicate and reach out to them once a quarter. Then you'll start to be top of mind. The other thing that I'll share, Kornelia, is that I think often when like people move to your town that are new reporters, or if you see someone that on TV that you've never seen before, that's a great time to reach out. If you see that they've won an award, or you see that they're participating in a charity event, or whatever the case is, those are all great times for you to reach out and connect, because that's a good moment that is just authentic. It's like, hey, I saw that you're new on the air, or I saw that you just won an award. Congratulations. Like, those are great connection moments. So that's what I would say. And I think in general, people they want the connection. They want to be able to know that they're seen and heard just like everyone else. And so if you can connect with reporters like that, you will start to become their go-to source. It's funny because even when I worked in television, I would have, this is back when there were flip phones and no smartphones, but I would have people that I've interviewed once, And I would just go back to them because it was easy to work with them. They were flexible. They gave me good sound bites and all of that. And I know we're going to talk more about how to become the go-to source, but that's where I would say start is with the connection.
Yeah, and everybody really wants that now. Don't you feel that that is more prevalent now than ever before? Is people really want connection all over the place because we're so busy. We're so, in such a rush, society, that nowadays it's just really, really important to connect with each other and offer presence to each other, and being seen and being heard, begins with each person bringing that energy to wherever it is that you want to go, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm right there with you. I think people underestimate that in the field because they see the person on TV and they think, "Oh my goodness, like that's so and so." But really they're real, just like you and I.
Yeah, and like you said, they have lives and they have families and they have, situations and traumas in their life, and they have to show up no matter what. If there's a snowstorm or whatever, like you said earlier, when your mom was saying, "What? Do you still have to go to work?" Yeah, they do. They have to show up.
Yeah, I remember last year we had a client that was on ABC in LA, and she was a health coach. And during the interview, the anchor raised her hand and said, "I need to hire you." And I remember that moment because I think often, like, you think that because they're the anchor, they're the be all expert on everything. But often you might be going in to be interviewed or to be on that show, and what you're sharing could be an answered prayer for that producer or that reporter. It could be the thing that changes everything for them. And so that's really important. When I think about the places that I frequent or the places that I spend money at or the products that I buy, often I'm buying them or I'm visiting the places because of some publicity that I've seen around it. I mean, I'm going to Bali next month and Singapore and Dubai, and everything I've been looking up has been like where to eat in Dubai, where to hang out, where to do this. And a lot of the things that I'm seeing are articles that have come up from Anthony Bourdain, God rest his soul, or CNN or Time Out magazine and all these places because someone else did the interview. And so there's such a massive impact around this simple thing that we've been talking about in this segment, which is the connection. Just that connection opens it up to so many other people being impacted as a result of just you connecting.
Yeah, and you never know what's going to come out of it. It's like you said, if you go in with the idea and the intention to offer something rather than, getting something back or coming at it from a needy place, that you're coming there to bring a great message, to share something rather than what you can get out of it. That is also a big mindset shift, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. That makes such a big difference for sure. And I think when we talk about being a sought after expert, that's one of the biggest mindset shifts is that you want to, from the time that they call you, you want to be coming from a place of service. I can't tell you how many people when I was a reporter that we would call and they'd say, "No, I can't do it." And that just makes it so that we never want to reach back out to them again. And it's not fair, but it's often what happens. If you can't troubleshoot during the interview, it's almost like it's not going to be a yes next time around when you want to be featured. And I hate to say that, but that's often what happens. If it's difficult to work with you and all of that, it makes it very difficult for you to be sought after. So the more you can be flexible, the more that you can be from a place of service, the better.
And I mean, you are offering the solution. So being the solution to a problem that the person is looking for, right? To find the solution that you can bring. And so that's also a part of it. Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a quick break on the Cornelia Stephanie Show, and we'll be back with Jackie Kotei, and we'll talk some more.
Hi, my name is Janet Hickox, and I want to tell you a little story about a story and how my friend Cornelia Stephanie helped me through to the other end of that story. I have gone from the dark of a story I was telling myself that wasn't true to the light of optimism to see my way out of where I was and to where I want to go. And it all started with her scheduling a session for me to help me reclaim my money or my financial empowerment. Up until that point, I had been telling the story that my business was dying, that my business was not successful anymore. And the more I tried to figure out what was going on, the worse I felt about it. And when I had to get ready to do the session with Kornelia, she asked me to go look at the numbers and where I was through the year to date, and then also to come prepared with a number that I wanted to raise my income to. Well, I was quite comfortable with that part, right? I knew where I wanted to be. What I wasn't comfortable with doing is going and looking up those numbers. But I made myself do it, even though I tried to backpedal my way out of the session. She didn't know that, but I was going to try to get myself out of the session. And I looked up those numbers. And it was incredible that I discovered through that process that my business wasn't dying. In fact, I was doing 12% better than I had the year before. So I was shocked. I was shocked literally at the power of the story that I had been telling for months. But more than that, I was shocked that I had allowed myself to get there. And later in that day when I had my session with Kornelia, she pointed out some very obvious things like, how are you going to get where you want to go if you don't know where you want to go? How are you going to get there if you don't have the goals written out, if you don't have it set up so that you know where you are and where you're going to go? Totally makes sense, right? And I had been in business, somebody else's business, as a sales manager for years, and I was a national sales manager. I had awards for sales management. I had business awards because of numbers. And yet when it came to doing my own business, I totally forgot all that I'd ever learned. So by the time Kornelia, working with me in just one session, got me to look deeper at the numbers and where did I want to go, and actually, claiming where I wanted to go, I was filled with a sense of optimism and hope like you can't believe. It was like everything shifted for me. And I am so looking forward to our continued sessions to see how far I can really push myself to get where I've only dreamed of being, where I've never taken the dream and actually brought it into concrete existence. So thank you, Kornelia, for the work that you're doing out there. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to see where I go from here.
We are back on the Cornelia Stephanie Show, and I'm with Jackie Kotei. We were talking in the break about how to create a compelling TV segment. Jackie, you're going to give us the steps on how to break that down, and what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so I think this is like the secret. So as you guys are getting to the end of this interview, lean in because we're about to share the secrets. I think so often people come up to me, Cornelia, and they're like, I want to be on Ellen, I want to be on Steve Harvey, I want to be on Good Morning America or the Today Show. And often they think just by sending a press release that with their book info, that that's enough. And what I would say is that what you really want to do is create a segment idea. So as you're listening, I would write that down, a segment idea. And ideally, that idea should be something that works well for TV, that's visual, that maybe you've seen segment ideas like this come out before, because what producers don't want to do, I mean, unless you're the president of the United States or you're the little girl who just saved somebody, like unless you're one of those stories that everyone wants in on, you want to make sure that what you're sending over is something that makes them so excited that they're like, yes. And so one way to do that is by creating a segment idea. If you were to watch the morning news just for a week, like I would almost say for all of you that want to get on TV, this is a good assignment to do, is to turn on your local morning news or turn on the Today Show or whatever show you watch in the morning and just see, you'll start to see that they have segments. So they'll do a health segment or a segment on relationships, or a segment on parenting, or a segment on what to try this season, or whatever the case is. And they're bite sized. They're about 5 minutes or less. Sometimes they'll be 10 minutes if they do two different ones. And it typically follows a format that the viewer can consume easily. And so what you want to do is, instead of reaching out to the media and saying, read my press release or read about my book and come feature me, you want to basically reach out to them and say, I have a segment idea for you. And that's already getting you to speak their language, so that they are getting that you get them, that you get how they work, how they operate. And so for your segment ideas, one of the easiest ways, so then you may be asking, like, what's the segment, or how do I come up with it? One of the easiest ways is to look and see what have been some past segments in your niche. So if you go to Google and you type in whatever your niche is, health or empowerment or finances or women's issues or relationships, or whatever the keyword is, you can then click on the news tab. So you'll get all the Google results, and you want to click on the news tab and just see what have some past TV, especially because you'll get all the news ones, but just look and see what have been some of the past TV clips that have been done in your niche. And that'll start to get the ideas turning around what might make for a good segment that the news would care about. It's often in the way that you write about it. It's in the way that you make it digestible. It's in the way that you position it that is the best at actually having reporters say yes to it.
So it's just a simple process, pretty much just starting to Google and finding out um, what the media is talking about, so that
Mhm.
you can really look and see if this is something that you can speak about also, right? And then
Yeah.
making the connection. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's in general what I think everyone who's watching wants to be thinking about and starting to do, is to see what the media is talking about. Like you just said, Cornelia, see what the media is talking about in your niche. That's going to get you better at getting on TV. It's also going to get you better in all of your marketing and all of what you're putting out, whether it's a Facebook Live or it's an email, whatever the case is. If you can see what the media is talking about, even the way they format stuff. I mean, let me tell you, I didn't go to school for marketing. I didn't get a marketing degree, but I'm really good at my marketing because I spent 4 years in a newsroom. And so titles that make you want to stay after the commercial break, you know, that keep you glued in watching, or you know how you're about to turn off the TV, but they're like coming up next. And it's like things like that. They are so good at it. And so they have to sell advertisements. They have to have viewers and good ratings. And so if you can just pay more attention to what it is that they do to get people to pay attention to them, and just model it. It doesn't mean that if they say three, crash, you need to do that. You might say 3 ways to, and then use, like, so you want to play around with it, but that's where you want to start. And I think even if you have no aspiration, if you've heard me talking all this time, you're like, Jackie, I have no aspiration to be on TV. Even if you just want to get better at how you're positioning yourself and your message, I would use that tip on the Google search and just seeing what people are talking about in your niche. And then for those of you that really know that you want to get featured and you want to be on TV, I would play around with that. And typically, Cornelia, we like to have people think in 3 quadrants with respect to what their segment ideas are. We either want you to think about seasonal segment ideas, things that relate to what's coming up, because those are easy. If it's already going to be Valentine's Day or spring or summer or whatever the case is, then the media is going to do something on it. And so if you can think about how does a season relate to your expertise, or how does Women's Day relate, or how does whatever is happening on the calendar relate, then that's one way that you can put together a strong segment idea. A second way is by thinking about things that are practical. So if you know that people tend to ask you how to manage their money, or how to work out if they're too busy, or how to do a video if they've never done one before, practical things, this is also another good area that television producers like to focus on. They like to focus on what are things that just will help their audience. And so that's another kind of segment idea brainstorm that you can do. Or what are some of the practical things that I could go on and talk about? The third is conceptual. And I think a lot of you that are listening, that are watching, you probably have big ideas and big concepts that you know to be true. Some of you, we often work with people who are experts who've been doing what they've been doing for years. And so they have whole methodologies or formulas or processes. And so that might be the conceptual. And so the conceptual might be, I'd like to come on and talk about this concept and how it can help your audience, or this process, or whatever the case is. So those are the ways to really think about your segment ideas and to get to a point where you can create them and strong so that the TV producers will really pay attention to them.
Wonderful. You've given us so much on this show today. Tell us again how people can get your template, the kit that you're offering, the free gift, and also how they can get in contact with you if they want to be seen and be heard globally.
Yeah, I mean, it's been such a joy. I first of all love you. You're one of my favorite people, one of my favorite clients that we've been able to work with just because of your energy. And so I love that. And I would say that those people that know, even if you started listening to this interview and you didn't know, but something's been like pulling at you or resonating with you, I would say go and get our QuickStart template. Because even if you think you want to be on Ellen 10 years from now, maybe you feel like you're not ready, or if you feel like you're ready to go, that's going to be a good place for you to walk through our process and just have the template that you can use and plug and play. So that's our QuickStart template that's available at moregoodmedia.com. And then if you have seen this interview and you just want to say, hey, I saw you on Kornelia's show, you can always send me a Facebook friend request or Facebook message us and let me know. I love hearing, that this interview's made a difference for you and all of that. So yeah, those are the two ways.
Thank you so much, Jackie Kotei. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you again next time. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Ciao.
You've been listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, Wake Up to Love, your call to action. Tune in each week on Transformation Talk Radio. Kornelia's joy is to engage others in practical ways, showing us how to live in the new earth in harmony with our true nature. For more information on Kornelia and her extraordinary work, or to listen to past shows, go to her website at korneliastephanie.com.